Hello, welcome to Biash and Klutz Knitting and Crochet. My name is Maria. So I wanted to go over a pattern with you that I'm going to do a quick tutorial on, and I'm just going to go over the basic stitches and run down the pattern and show you how the pattern comes together, and then meet you back to finish off the pattern. This is called Eyelet Yoke Cardigan. It's a really sweet little cardigan sweater that you can make for a little girl. And there's 5 sizes, 6 months, but I think you really can get away with like 3 to 6 months with it, and even a little longer because they do run a little big. My cat's going to come up and video bomb me now because he likes to jump up when I'm doing a video. So his name is Dustin. He'll jump up any minute. Sorry about that. Come on up, Dustin. I know you're looking to jump me. Come on, jump. Get it over with. He knows when the camera goes on. He wants to get the camera. Okay, go find your spot. Good boy. Good boy. That's a good boy. Okay. Don't go by the yarn, though. Okay. Put it there. Okay. So there's 5 sizes. 6 months, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, and 4 year. It's at lionbrand.com. Lion brand is one word. www.lionbrand.com. LIONBRAND.com. There's over 7,000 free, beautiful PDF downloads. Clean, no viruses, no pop-ups, no spamming, no video players coming on and things going across your coupons and things. None of that happening. Just really nice, clean downloads that I found on Lion Brand, and their patterns are written really, really easy to understand. And even the things that have said they're advanced or intermediate, I've found that I consider myself an intermediate knitter and an advanced crocheter because I've done a lot of advanced lace work in crochet, but I don't feel as confident with knitting, so I wouldn't say I'm an advanced knitter at all. I'd say intermediate, like just intermediate, but some of their patterns that have been advanced I've been able to do. So I think if I can do them, anybody can, and this is an easy one. And really all you need to do is check your gauge. And when it says that on a pattern, I found that it really means check your gauge. It's in big bold prints all the time. Check your gauge. I wish they had a Giphy that said, check your gauge. Put it on a pattern to blink at you like a warning light. So I will give you the number to the pattern. And I will go over right now. Hopefully I can get this on the camera. Let's see. I can show you what it looks like. There we go. So that is the pattern right there. And I'm going to just make it a little bigger so I can show you parts of it here and explain the pattern. Okay, so the way this pattern is made is in 5 separate pieces. The left front, which comes up to here, from here to here. It's worked from the bottom up. It's made in 5 pieces. The left front, the right front. It'll probably look opposite on here, but it is the left front, the right front. And what's not showing in the picture is the back. It's going to be a longer piece. And then 2 sleeves that are hopefully identical. The stitch work you're going to be doing, you can see the border here is kind of bumpy. That is a seed stitch, which is a multiple of 2 plus 1 or an odd number. And all of the cast-ons for this will be an odd number or multiple of 2 plus 1. But if you wanted to change it up and make it more or less, or make this for somebody like a petite small or a woman, you know that's the seed stitch you're going to do on the border. And you would increase your border a little bit. the way the pattern comes together is you can really work these pieces in any order. It says back, to do the back first. It's going to give you your stitch count inside of the parentheses unless you're doing the 6-month one. Then you'll follow the number that's outside of the parentheses on the left, because the pattern is written in the smallest size. Excuse me. If you're making any of the other sizes like 1, 2, 3, or 4-year-old, you're going to look inside of the parentheses from left to right inside of the commas for your cast on number for each piece. And you can do any cast on you're comfortable with. Then you're going to do 5 rows of seed stitch, which is a foundation row of 2 rows where you knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl each stitch. Knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl all the way to the end in row 1. And you end on a knit stitch. And then row 2 is you purl your knits and you knit your purls. And you just continue row 2 till the end of this. So you do 3 more rows after row 2, and you're at row 5. I decided for the border, I've already made one of these, so I already have seen what I would change, and it gives you plenty of room to play with it a little bit. I would probably go with 6 rows, especially for the sleeve cuff, because, you know, with little girls, and little boys, little babies, and little children, you want to roll their cuff up, and you kind of want that seed stitch to show on the rolled up cuff. Now, if you roll it up this way, you're going to see the back side of stockinette stitch, which sometimes doesn't look all that great. So I'm kind of, the one I'm going to be making is going to be like a statement piece. And what I'm going for is a Downtown Abbey look, where they take areas of the pattern and they overstate them. Like, I'm going to overstate the border with a little bit thicker yarn than what I'm using on the inside. Normally you wouldn't mix your weights, but I saw some patterns and some pictures filming of kids playing in the park on Downtown Abbey. They were wearing winter coats and hats. They were really, really, really big brim hats and then very fine. And that look was going on where you don't have, statement pieces are really popular right now. We're doing the big chunky scarves, the big chunky hats, the big chunky sweaters. You don't have to use all that bulk. You can just bulk up the border, bulk up the cuff, and around the collar. And that would make it a bit of a statement piece. So I'm just going to add a little bump to mine. I'm also using 2 different colors, so I'm going to have my border different down here, and then I'm going to crochet into the side. But basically, it's a very simple 4 seed stitch here. This is all done separately. You're going to mark off 4 stitches, so your left front and your right front. You will bind off the last 2 rows, 3 stitches, and that will shape your armholes up in here. You'll mark your right sides so that they're facing you when you go to put them back on. And then you'll put them on stitch holders or scrap yarn. So you'll knit a left front, a right front, a back, and 2 sleeves separately. And then you'll go ahead and put them on stitch holders or scrap yarn. And then you'll put them back onto your needle. And you'll put them on right front facing you, sleeve, back, sleeve, left front facing you. All of the fronts will face you, the sleeves too. And then it's just a matter of sewing up your sides. You'll join, and not join in the round, but you'll join by knitting a row, and then you'll have a decrease row where you'll put it all together in the waist, and then you'll have a row of knitting 2 together and yarning over, which creates these little eyelets. And then the next row you'll knit your yarn over, and you'll knit the 2 that you knit together stitch. and then you'll purl a row, and the purling row makes these little ridges. And then you have your little knit stitches in between. And then you yarn over again, and then you knit your yarn overs, and it makes the little holes. And with each row, there will be some decreases. Like you might start with knitting, it's going to say knit 2, and then knit 2 together. Like it'll start with knit 2 together all the way across, then it'll be knit 3, knit 2 together, knit 3, knit 2 together, knit 3, knit 2 together. Then your next decreased row might be knit 2, and then knit 2 together, and then knit 2 and then knit 2 together, and at the very last row you'll be knitting 1 and then knitting 2 together and then knitting 2 together again. So it's a very gradual decrease, and you'll have the eyelets around the arm also. So the entire yoke will be, they'll be scattered out. So it's a very, very, very easy peasy pattern. It really is. I've never knit before a pattern in pieces that I've put together. I've usually done top-down cardigans on one needle, or bottom-up raglan type on one needle, and so it was a real challenge that I wanted to try, and I made a little cardigan for my little second cousin, and well, third cousin really, and I think the sizes run a little bit big, which is why you're going to want to check your gauge. Let me give you all the information for this. Okay, so it's called Eyelet, E-Y-E-L-E-T, Yoke Cardigan. The number is 702050. The cotton they're using is called Cotton Ease, and that's been discontinued from Lion Brand. So the thing I really like about Lion Brand is that it will give you a comparable, a yarn that's comparable. I want to say comparable, but that's not the right word. Comparable to the yarn that they're using. So when I went to look up Cotton Ease, it said that you need 2 skeins for 6 months, 2 skeins for 1 year, 2 skeins for 3 years. No, wait, 2 skeins for 6 months, 2 skeins for 1, 2, and 3. For the 4-year-old, you need 3 skeins. And Cotton Ease had 3.5 ounces in each skein. So the comparable yarns that they gave, so you were going to need at least 7 ounces of yarn, unless you were doing the 4-year, then you were going to need at least 10 ounces of yarn. So Cotton Ease was also a blend of acrylic and cotton, and it was considered a light 4. So the comparable yarns were Caron Simply Soft, which this is the band for Caron Simply Soft. That's not the band. Okay. Caron Simply Soft. Okay, and that comes in, it says it's a medium 4, but anybody that has ever worked with Caron Simply Soft knows that it is a very light 4. Also Mandela, Bernay, Yarn Inspirations is a light 4. It was a comparable yarn. Red Heart, super value yarn, which I don't have by large. Where did I put it? Here it is. Orchid I'm working with. Super Saver, for their value yarn, is a light 4. I'm hung up on my case here looking for. I'm hung up on my case. Okie dokie, I'm stuck on my snail. Hang on. Got it. Okay. So this is comparable to show you the difference between. This is Caron Simply Soft. You can see there's a nice scrap yarn that I used with me. So you can see how thin that is. This is grape purple. Okay. And if you compare also the Red Heart Super Saver, and these are the two value yarns, Caron Simply Soft, value yarn, Red Heart, value yarn. They're pretty much the same. Okay. So an actual 4 would be, let's look at an actual 4. Would be, let me show you the difference. This is a 4 and it's a Bernay pop yarn. This is a 4. So now you can see the difference. Okay. And then this one. I don't think I have enough purple. Okay, so you can get a difference. This is what a 4, you can see. That's a medium 4. Okay. This is a light 4. This is a medium 4. It's an Aran yarn. Medium 4. Red Heart. This is a light 4. It's the value yarn. It's going to say it's a medium 4, but it works up like a light 4. So some of the yarns they said you could use that are comparable. Got it. To Cottonese, which has been discontinued, is Caron Simply Soft. You really need 2 skeins because there's how many ounces? Hang on one second. There's, instead of 3.5, there's 5 ounces in each skein. So you only need 2. Okay, so that's good. And then the other one was Vanna's Home Sweet Cotton. I believe, or Homestead. I gotta look it up again. If you go to the website www.lionbrand.com and you look up the pattern, and then you go to try to purchase the Cottonese, it will say discontinued. And then there'll be a little video there that you can look at, and they'll have, or you can look at it to learn about Cottonese, but underneath it it'll say discontinued and it'll tell you what's comparable to it. So I really like that. It does that. What else? The gauge for this is 17 stitches, 24 rows, and you're going to want to get to a 4" by 4x4 blocked. So stretch and mist it if you have to and try it. You want a 4x4. Whatever yarn you're using, you want a 4x4. Each corner. You want to check your gauge. See, in my corners, it got a little bit to the 5, so I was a little bit worried about that, but 4x4 inch square. So I've checked my gauge with each yarn. And then, you know, I have to stretch, because in this, when you wash this, I promise you it's going to stretch a lot, so it's a lot bigger. So the lengths they give you to knit, you do want to check your gauge. Okay, so you're just going to do, you're going to knit 1 row, purl 1 row, knit 1 row, purl 1 row for 24 rows, 17 stitches on your regular gauge with the needle that they're giving you, with the yarn that you choose, and a comparable yarn. And when you have your gauge, you'll have you'll know what you're gonna use. That's basically it. There's not much more to say about this pattern. I posted pictures of it. I actually thought it was too small at first. I was all over the place when I made this. I had actually started making another sweater, and I ripped it out midway, and then I was quick trying to make another one, and I fell in love with this one, and I didn't like the way the colors were coming together. I just thought the colors were too dark, and so I ripped it out again. And then I finally got it done. So I thought I would do a tutorial on this. I found some really pretty colors. And I'm making another one. The one that I made for my little cousin was a 3-year-old. Came out really cute. You will need, what you will need is a tape measure. Calls for a US 8 or 5mm circular needle and 24-inch cable. Now, I finally gifted myself with my son 2.5 years ago. Gave me a little gift of money, and he said, "Mom," it wasn't a little gift, it was very generous. And he said, "Mom, get you what you need. Get some stuff you need." And he knew that I like to knit and crochet. He said, "Do something for you, get what you need." And I got myself, finally, a pair of Takumi Clover interchangeable needles. But for years I knitted on chopsticks. I finally got myself some place markers. But for years I used an earring or a ring or a rubber band. I finally got myself a couple of stitch holders. But for years I just used scrap yarn, and I still do. I finally got myself a couple of stitch toppers, but for years I just used rubber bands or eraser tips. So you can do this. You're knitting flat back and forth. What I would say is, because you're just knitting up pieces, this is the back. I'm gonna knit this for 6.5 inches from the beginning. And this is the front. I have it off on a stitch holder, the left front, and I'm going to knit that for exactly 6.5 inches. And then I'm going to bind off a certain number of stitches to shape my armhole. And then I'm going to make a right front, and then I'm going to make 2 sleeves. And I'm going to put them back on in the order of right front, facing me, which I've marked here. This is the right front. And this is the back, and you can tell because when I added in my yarn, you can see a different color there, and it's bumpier. And here it's more smooth. So, knit up your pieces. You're basically going to do 5 rows, or 6 if you want, of the seed stitch, which is your multiple of 2 plus 1, which is your cast on for your size. And you're going to do it in a solid color or use 2 separate colors, but mark your right side. Just put a little mark right there. You know, that's my right side. You'll need some stitch place markers or scrap yarn that you can use to slip, or a little tiny rubber band. I found at the dollar store. These go in the little girls section where hair supplies are. I found a bag of all these little tiny rubber bands, all different colors. They work great as to slip. I like to keep some bobby pins nearby when I'm knitting because I'll explain why. I find them much easier if I drop a stitch. I can go grab the stitch, click it right into, and snap it into that bobby pin, and move my bobby pin down into where it needs to be and pull it out the other side, and then turn and go the other way, and then just pull it off like that. And I find it just a whole lot easier to use. But some people find a crochet hook easier to use, so do whatever makes you happy. They sell all kinds of needles with large eyes. I just happen to have a tapestry needle from when I was doing embroidery and tapestry with a large eye. But it's kind of blunt, and if you don't have one of those, they sell these. It's all bent in all different sizes on Amazon, just everywhere. Walmart, like 88 cents. You need a large eye. And if all else fails, go to the Dollar General or Dollar Tree. They have whole packs of large eyelet needles all the time, and in their very little sewing kits, they have at least one with a large eye. You just need a needle with a large eye. You will need some sewing thread to sew your button on. A button. Everybody feels different about everybody feels different about buttons for little children's things, and everybody feels different about let's see if I can find it. And everybody feels different about ties around babies' necks and buttons. So unless you have a safety button, ask the mom and the dad or the grandparent, whoever taking care of the child, what you can do with this. I think with this pattern, if you're not comfortable with buttons for babies, and I'm not comfortable until they're about past teething and grabbing everything and putting it in their mouth, past that stage, you can knit or crochet a button. You can do a French knot button, and I'll show you how to do this. And I think it's in a contrasting color. It looks really charming and sweet on this kind of sweater. So it will stay more secure. So if you're worried about safety, things like that, then do that. Crochet hook, a smaller one. Some way to count rows. I just, pop yourself some popcorn, or you have lentils or beans in the house, or a scratch pad, just scratch off. You don't need to have a row counter. If you have a little calculator, your cell phone, anything will work. Scissors, and that's it. Scrap yarn. And I do, this is a good yarn. I use my Aran smooth yarn. And your tapestry needle, if you don't have a stitch holder, and you can just go through and pick up, like these would be considered live stitches, and at some point it's going to tell you to go and pick up your stitches and put them on a stitch holder, and you're going to go through like this. And you have your yarn thread, a contrasting yarn that's smooth. You just flip it through and then tie it off, and you have it tied off. So colors I've chosen to work with are Bubblegum Pink by Red Heart. I think it's just called Bubblegum. And this is Love Baby. This is Love Soft. And Orchid. And I'm probably going to toss some cream in, I think, around the borders, just to make it pop a little bit. So, that's the whole definition of everything. I'm going to go over the stitches you need to know now. I'll do it with this yarn. Okay. Got yarn in my tongue. Don't be sneezing. Okay, so for the seed stitch, you need a multiple of 2 plus 1. So let's say 16. No. First of all, the cast on I'm going to do is a variation of a long tail cast on. A long tail cast on is you're estimating from your working yarn a tail of yarn, a long tail, that you're going to put on your needle to work with. And then you'll be working with, well, from that point, then you'll be working with that tail to go on your needle with your working yarn. So, the best way to do this, I found, is I like to leave about this much waist tail, 5-6 inches waist tail. And then I take, I'm just going to show you on some short double pointed needles, just some of the basic stitches you need to know. I wrap around the center of the barrel of the needle loosely for how many stitches I'm going to need. So I want, let's say I want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I want 17. And then I make it a multiple of 2 plus 1, so 17. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay. So then I pinch that point there and I come down here and grab a little extra here. Gives up a little room. Everybody makes their slip knot different. Some people go around their 2 fingers like this, crisscross it, like this, and then they take their bottom one and they go over the top and they do this. Some people do like I do. They just take their 2 strands and they go to the top strand and they pull it through. Your slip stitch is your first stitch on your needle. So you have this tail, and you have your working yarn, which is connected to your ball of yarn. Now, a long tail cast on is really cool, and if all else fails, just do a long tail cast on for everything. It's a great cast on. And it actually even creates your first row of knit or garter stitch, what's called garter stitch. So if you keep that in mind when you're making scarves and things, it comes in handy. It's called a double-stranded or 2-strand cast on also, some places. What I do, you got to find the way it works for you. But just hold it so it's comfortable, both strands, between 2 fingers or however you want to do it, and just come down and make a slingshot kind of thing going on here. So you have 2 strands here around your thumb, and 1 strand coming down from your index finger, and then 1 in between here. You're going to go under for a long tail cast on, under the strands, around your index finger strand, and right up through the middle. And like, again, under your thumb, around the index finger, up through the middle. It's a very simple cast on. Again, under the 2 strands, around the index finger, up through the middle. Let go. Under the 2 strands, around the index finger, up to the middle. Okay, what I'm going to do, now this is a great cast on, but it's got a lot of stretch to it. Okay, a lot of give. Cast on I'm going to show you is a variation of long tail. Mac's mother-in-law taught it to me. She called it the sock cast on because she used it for tops of socks, brims of hats, cuffs, and collars. It leaves a very clean edge, and it has a kind of boing elasticity to it that keeps it snug, so your socks don't go traveling down your legs, your hat doesn't get out of shape, your cuffs don't get all out of shape, but they're not uncomfortable too. So here's how it goes. Same way as long tail cast on. I'm going to show you them side by side. You come down like a slingshot. You set up the same way. You go around the 2 strands, down through the 2 strands, around the index finger, and you come up and there's a diamond right there. Can you see that diamond shape? It's right there for you. And again, instead of going underneath the strands, we go around the strands. We go down through the strands. We go around the index finger strand, and there's that diamond right there. See the diamond? Okay. Pull up. Around, down through the middle of the strands, around the index finger, and up. Actually fun to do. So I want to get a few of these out here just to show you. Okay, so down into one more here. Okay, so again, the long tail, you're just going underneath the 2 strands and around the index finger and up. The Old World German or sock cast on, which is what it's called, you're going around the 2 strands, down through the 2 strands, around the index finger, up through that little diamond. Let go. Okay, so here's the difference between these cast-ons. Can you see how much thinner this is right here? Thin and fine, and those are thicker. So it's much thinner. I know it looks almost the same, but it's not, and the way it behaves on a garment is totally different. So here is the long tail cast on, and then here is the, here we go. Here is the long tail, and here is the thin. Okay, much cleaner. But here's the long tail when we go to stretch it out. Gotta really pull it in. It's not doing it on its own, okay? You will feel the difference when you come over here to stretch this. It doesn't just stretch out. It's real boingy. It's got that elasticity. Over here, yeah, it just stays out. You will feel it. You will feel the boing in it. and that's what the difference is. So you can see thin, thicker. So you can decide. You can do any one you want. Okay. So I'm going to just get 17 stitches on here. I did do 17, or maybe I didn't. I don't know. Let's see how many did I do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. So I'm going to do a few more. 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay. So now the seed stitch, what you need to know how to do for this pattern is how to knit. So let's just do that first. You need to know how to go right to left with your unloaded needle underneath your stitch. Going just, your yarn is in the back. Should have said that. And you're going underneath your stitch like this. Then you're taking your working yarn, not your tail. That shouldn't be that much tail. It should be lighter. But I misgauged, obviously. But you're gonna wrap. I didn't say what I need to do. You're gonna wrap around the bottom needle and then pull your stitch through, and you're still connected. See how you're connected there? Push that stitch off. You've made your first knit stitch. Again, the yarn is in the back. You're going right to left underneath. You're wrapping your yarn counterclockwise around the bottom needle, the unloaded bottom needle, and now you're grabbing that stitch, you're connected, and you're pushing off. And you've got 2. Okay? I'm going to just show you quickly how to knit. Just watch and I promise you will get this. And a good way to learn is on short double. It's easier to learn that way. Okay, so you can see you have your stitches there. Now, that is called English style knitting. If you wanted to do continental style knitting, you would hold your yarn in the back with your index finger, like this. And you would enter from the right to the left, pinch down with your thumb, and grab that piece of yarn and bring it through and push off. And then go into the next one, grab your yarn, push off. And the beauty about continental is you don't have to come off the needle. Now it's considered speed knitting, but I don't find knitting continental, the garter stitch, faster. I find it slows me down. So I do a combination where, and it changes your tension too. So I do more of an English style knit, and then I purl continental style usually. So I'm just going to knit. So these are knit stitches in through the bottom, right to left, around, counterclockwise the bottom needle, and then push off. Okay. Now, to purl, your yarn is in the front. You're going to take your empty needle and you're going to go right to left in the front. And your unloaded needle is on the top. You're going to take your working yarn and wrap it counterclockwise around the top. Push off, grab that stitch, grab it. Okay, that's purl. So you always want to keep your yarn in the front. Some of the freaky things that can happen with purling is if your yarn falls off in between your needles, you can end up with an extra stitch. Okay. So you see I'm using my finger, my index finger, to hold my yarn over the top, like this. But I'm going to show you an English style one. So you would have your yarn in the front, you would enter your stitch on top, wrap around the top, and push off, snuggle and slide off, and grab that stitch. Oddly, I have a hard time continental knitting garter stitch. I have a hard time purling English style, so I switched them up. So what I do is I use my finger to guide and direct my yarn, and it's more of a shoulder elbow workout. Okay, so you will, if you've never knitted before, you will feel this. I'd say if you're not sitting correctly, you'll really feel it in weird places. So some of the things I can tell people if you've never knitted before and this is your first time, don't do what I'm doing. Oh, I just did it again. Don't cross your legs. I'm a habitual. I cross my legs way too much. Don't sit too long. You really can knit standing up, and it's better for you. Better for your neck, better for your shoulders, better for your elbows, better for your eyes, better for everything. Okay? So that is a purl stitch. Okay, so that was a knit stitch and a purl stitch. Knitting one row and purling the next row is the stockinette stitch. The next thing you do is knit across. That's what the whole pattern is, stockinette. Other than It will tell you often to end on a wrong side row, which is a purl side row, and a right side row is a knit row. Stockinette stitches knit on the right side row, purl on the wrong side row. If ever you see reverse stockinette, you're going to purl on the right side and knit on the wrong side. So it's just the opposite. Seed stitch, which is also called the moss stitch, begins with row 1. You're going to knit 1. Then you're going to bring your yarn in the front and you're going to purl 1. And then you're going to knit 1. And then you're going to purl 1. Then, and every time you do it, if you do the combination knitting like I'm doing, you're set up to knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl. It sets you up. You don't have to do anything different. Like your yarn's in the back to knit, in the front to purl, and then back to knit. And you're just alternating those stitches on one row, row 1. Knitting and purling all your stitches. Okay. Knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl. I'm going to end on a knit stitch for the first row. Knit. And even if you did something wrong, like I obviously did, you're going to end on a knit stitch. Make it work, okay? Just end on a knit stitch. I probably knit a split somewhere in here. Oh, yeah. Or I had my stitches come off my needle. That could happen too. Yeah, I dropped one. Okay. Right there. So now what you're going to do for row 2, which is the rest of the seed stitches, you're going to purl your knits and knit your purls. The best way I can explain purling your knits and knitting your purls is, let's pretend the needle is my neck and the measuring tape is the yarn. A knit stitch is going to be like you crisscrossed a scarf around your neck. You just threw a scarf on and you crisscrossed it. You just, maybe you put a coat on over it and you just made an X out of it. Okay. Now if you were purling, if you were going in from the right to the left, purling into the front, there's lots of room there. And when you pull down on it, you see an X. And if you were coming into knit this way, there's room. There's room. When you pull down on it, there's this elongated X. Okay? That is a knit stitch. On the seed stitch, every knit stitch you see, you're going to come into it from the right to the left and purl it. Okay? Now a purl stitch looks like it has a little wrap in front of it. Looks like it's a little bump. Okay? It's a little wrap. You're going to knit those stitches. You're going to be coming against that resistance of that wrap. And when you pull down on it, you're going to see it has a little wrap there. It's not open. It's not like a V, like an X. So that's the best way I can explain it. The first few rows you really can't see it, but I'll try to show you. So you're gonna, if you pull down on this, you see a V right there. See that V right there? Okay. We're going to purl that because that is a knit stitch. Okay. Now the next stitch you look at, and it has a wrap around it. See the wrap? Wait a minute. I'm looking at it from the wrong way. Sorry, I'm turning it the wrong way. Okay, so this is also a knit stitch, sorry. So we're going to purl it. Get my yarn in the front. I have one that's off the hook, that's what it is. Okay, so I have to knit one here. I dropped a stitch. Not the best way to show you. Maybe the measuring tape is the best way to show you. Because I dropped three or four stitches over here. Okay, now look at this one. Let's go. This one has a little wrap around it. Do you see the ones that have, maybe I shouldn't be turning it. Some have the little bumps around them and some don't. You pull them down, you see an X. The other ones you can't pull down. Okay. Wrap, pull down, wrap, pull down, wrap, pull down. So I'm going to knit that one. Okay, and this one I'm going to knit too. And I'm going to purl this one because I got off track there. You can feel the row. You can feel the resistance before you see it. So you're going to knit your purls and purl your knits. And here's a good example. This one is just very long. See that? That's a knit stitch. You're going to bring your yarn in the front and purl. Okay, see this one? One has a wrap around it, like it's a little scarf that's been wrapped. Okay, you're going to knit that one. You're going to go against that resistance bump and knit it. And again, this one has a long. Okay. So you're just going to repeat row 2 3 more times on your pattern, 3 more rows to get the 5, unless you really want to do 6 to 8 rows. It's totally up to you. For your sleeves, I would probably do more than that around the bottom of the fronts and the bottom of the back because it might take up too much of the sweater. But around the cuffs on the sleeves, I would probably go a little bit, 1 or 2 rows more than 5. Or 5 looks fine too. Basically, you're just going to keep repeating row 2. You're going to purl your knits and knit your purls for as many rows as you have to. Okay. And then, when we get to the eyelet, the only other stitches you need to know how to do, getting dark and pearls in. The only other stitches you need to know how to do is it's going to tell you to knit. I'm going to go this way. It's going to tell you to knit a stitch. And purl 2 together. So instead of going underneath 1, you're going to go underneath 2. You're going to yarn over and put those 2 together. Then on others, it's going to tell you to knit 2 together. Okay. Add your decrease row. And to yarn over. And when we yarn over, you're going to yarn over on this needle. On the needle you're loading, your opposite needle. So a lot of people do it that way, or they just dip like this. That's what I do. So if you do it that way, it's going to tell you to yarn over and knit 2 together. Okay, and yarn over and knit 2 together. Yarn over and knit 2 together, and then for some rows it might tell you to stop at the last 4 stitches and to do the seed stitch in them. So you will just either continue with row 2 or you'll begin with row 1 and continue on with row 2. Knitting your purls and purling your knits. Okay, so you're just yarning over after each of those. I'll show you how these eyelets start to develop. Okay, and then we'll knit one. So now we've just done a little bit of a, and you can see the little, where the spaces are going to be here now for the eyelets. That row right after the knitting the two together and yarning over is going to tell you to knit crossed. You're going to knit each of your stitches that you knitted, the two together that became one stitch, and then you're going to knit your yarn overs. And this is really important because these can fall, get crossed, hide, other stitches cross over them. They basically look like this. They don't close. So you're going to see them. They're big and long, and you've got to knit them. You have to. Or else you'll have a big old space that you don't want. That is just a faltering hole. And you got to get underneath a falling hole into the abyss. And you got to get underneath the two that you knit together. And again, there's your yarn over, right? You kind of got to separate out your stitches very carefully for that row. And then go to knit your two together. The two that you knit together, that's one stitch, and then you're back to your yarn over again. You can see that there. Okay, and then you've got your two that you knit together here. Alright, and then you got your yarn over there. And then you got your two that you knit together there. And let's see, we knit two together here. And you got a yarn over here. Here. Okay. And we got one that we knit here. And one that we knit here. Just like little side stitches. Trying to work up a little pattern just to show you the stitch. Okay. Now I can't really stretch it out so you can see. Can you see the little eyelets you've created by doing that? There we go. Right there. Okay. Now it'll tell you to go ahead and knit all those stitches now. There's no more yarn overs in the way. So you've decreased. You've got a decreased row. Okay. Yeah, so you're putting like some long knit stitches in between your eyelets. Okay. We're just gonna knit. Sorry, it's getting dark in here. It's been windy and trying to preserve my lighting in case the power goes out. Been really gusty wind, snowing, raining. Nasty out today. Crazy weather. A lot of people don't have power right now. My power's been scattered, but I haven't lost lighting or heat. I have lost my cable and my phone quite a few times today. My poor cat was just up in the window all night last night, all this morning and today, and he just finally laid down. All the little animals were talking to each other in the windows. Ooh, what's going on? Yeah. Okay, so there will be a knit row in between. Okay, so you can really establish those. And this is falling. That stitch is falling. Let me get that on there. Okay. So you have your little pattern of eyelets up here. And then it will tell you to purl a row and to stay established in your established pattern, which is Stockinette, so it'll tell you to purl a row. Okay. I'm going to purl across. And then it will tell you to go ahead and repeat those 4 rows where you're like knitting two together, excuse me. And what it'll tell you to knit a row. You'll knit 2 rows, and then you'll knit 2 together and yarn over for a row, and then you'll follow that with knitting your yarn overs and knitting the 2 that you knit together in that stitch. You'll knit those. You'll follow that with another knit row and then a purl row, which will give you a nice little ridge that I pointed out in the pattern. So it makes the ridge. Okay. And then they'll start to scatter how many you knit to decrease the eyelets. So you'll be knitting like 2 and then knitting 2 together, and knitting 3 and knitting 2 together, or knitting 2 and knitting 2 together, knitting 1 and knitting 2 together, and then knitting 2 together again to decrease all the way up to the collar. So now you have this ridge happening with your eyelets. Okay. So the only other thing you need to know how to do is that when you're working up these pieces, like the back, I got that backwards. The pink is going to be on the bottom, and then I'm going to work up with the orchid. So my seed stitch is on the bottom. This is all going to be stockinette for 6.5 inches. If you're doing the 6-month-old, I think it'll be like 4 1/4 inches. 1-year-old will be 5.5 inches. 2 years old will be 6.5 inches. 3 years old will be, I believe, 7 1/4 inch, and 4 years old will be 9 1/4 inches. You're going to just knit from the beginning to the end, stockinette, end on a wrong side row of purling when you've reached your measurement that you want for your size. And then you're going to do 2 rows on your back. You're going to bind off 3 stitches at the beginning of the next row, turn and bind off 3 stitches at the beginning of the next row for 2 rows. At the beginning, bind off 3 stitches. That's what you're going to do. For your, it's kind of hard to show this, but your left front or your right front, it'll tell you to bind off on the left side and to end on a wrong side row, and then for 1 row to bind off and knit 3 stitches, and then to purl the next row, and then you're going to put them on a stitch holder or a piece of yarn. So what you need to know how to do is how to dropping things in the dark here. Okay, so you're going to need to know how to do a bind off. So a 2-stitch bind off is you knit a stitch, you knit another one, you knit 2 stitches. Okay, so let's say it wants me to bind off 3 stitches right here. I knit 2 stitches. 2 stitches are over here. With this needle, I come over here and I pass over that stitch and I lock off. I pull. Then I knit 1 more stitch here, and I've got 2 over here, and I come over here into the front, left to right, and I pass that stitch over, pull it up, and bind it off. You lock it off. Again, knit 1, got 2 here, okay. So when it tells you to shape your armholes, you're going to be knitting 3 stitches off on one side or the other. On the left side of the front, you're going to be doing the left side 3 stitches you're going to bind off for your armholes. On the right side, you're going to bind off on the right side that you're working 3 stitches. And on the back of the sweater, you're going to bind off 3 stitches on each row for 2 rows on either side. And that's going to make the armhole gaps that you're going to sew together, because the sleeves get sewn together and then the sides get sewn together in that gap area. So again, 2 stitch bind off is just, you always make sure you got 2 here. And you're going underneath and you're pulling that up. Turn on a light or something, right? I should turn on the light. Okay. So let's pretend I bound all these off because I don't want the video to go too long. You can see how this is binding off. Okay. So I'm going to end this video so it doesn't get too long, because it's longer than I had intended it to be, for sure. But that is every stitch you need to know how to do for this. And all you have to remember is take your embroidery needle, or your needle with a large eye, your scrap yarn, and thread your needle, and just run it through your stitches, your live stitches of your left front and your right front and your back and your sleeves. And tie it off and snip it, and that's it. Now, when you go to put your sweater back, your pieces back on to start your yoke, again, you got to make sure you have your left front and your right front marked, and which is your left and which is your right. Good way to remember it is the left side of the left front, those top stitches will be, the 3 of them will be binded off, but you can mark them too. Now put a little piece of paper between them and just say what they are when you're working on it. Okay. I wanted to show you how to get to the end of this. So now you have 2, sorry, I got a split there. Now you have 2 stitches left here. You're going to go into that front one just like you've been doing and pull that through and just snip and pull. Okay, and you've bound off here. Okay, so all the stitches that you need to know how to do are in there. Your stockinette, your knit, your purl, your yarn overs, your knit 2 together, and your bind off and your cast on. Then you're just going to take a needle, and you're going to fasten these in and snip. And the best way to block this is just to wash it with some really gentle, non-perfume, fragrant, whatever, something that's easy on baby skin. Hand wash it really good, agitate it really good, and flat dry it, excuse me. And you'll see all the little stitches will come out and show. They won't be all blinged up like this, they'll show. So I hope everyone will make this little eyelet. It's like a little Eloise eyelet sweater. It's pretty cute, fun to make. I hope you'll enjoy making it. Just remember to do your gauge. Check your gauge. Okay? There's a reason it says in big print, check your gauge. And then remember, you don't have to start with the back. Just do your seeds, your rows of seed stitch, and then go. You can do it any colors you want. I'm messing with my colors because it's fun, but you could do it all one solid color. Remember to check your gauge and get the needle you need. And what I was saying before is just take your needle, some yarn that you cut like 14 to 16 inches maybe, cut it off, put it through there, and just pick up your stitches and tie it off and snip and pull your needle off, and you've put your stitches on another holder. Okay, I just happened to use this because it was already knitted up and I pulled it out. I ripped it out. So I'm going to finish my back. And I'm going to finish my left front and go on to my right front. And then with the sleeves, you will be actually increasing. It will ask you on your, depending on what size you're making, on either your 4th row, well, it will always be your 4th row, but you'll be working stockinette stitch. You'll be knitting 1 row, purling 1 row, knitting 1 row, purling 1 row, and it will ask you to to increase your stitch on each edge, or on one edge at different times. And I'll come back and go over the sleeves with you after I've gotten my front left and my right left made in my back. I'll come back and do the sleeves with you, and we'll put everything back on the hook and start the yoke. Okay, so I hope that has explained the pattern for you, and I'll post a picture of the jacket that I made, the little 3-year-old one. It wasn't totally blacked yet, the picture that I have, but I hope you'll enjoy making this. It's a nice little spring summer jacket. I just think it's cute. And just find a comparable yarn, whatever you want to use. Okay, thanks for joining me. Bye-bye. Good luck.